Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rhiannon and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I plan on reading in February. Now, considering February is the shortest month, I have a load of books that I would like to get to. Not only do I have this set TBR, but I also have a separate TBR for Polathon, which is a week-long readathon hosted by Jade over at Jade Reads, which starts on the 5th of February, and the aim is to read as many polar fantasy books as you can. That video will be coming after this one, I believe, and I have featured 4 books that I would like to read in that week alone. So I am definitely under pressure here. I don't know whether I'll be able to complete this TBR. The only hope I have is that I do have a week off for half term in February, where I'm basically hoping to just shut out the world and read. But I do have some chunky books on here. I have some very intimidating ones, and I still have books from last month's TBR that I need to carry over as well. So it's definitely a daunting one, but I'm excited for each and every single one of these books. If I don't manage to get to all of them, it's fine. The only pressure that I'm feeling is pressure from myself, and I need to remember that I'm only human. I work full time, I have a dog, I go to the gym, I make time to see my family, and so sometimes reading does fall on the back burner. But saying that, I'm gonna dive right into this TBR because, as I've mentioned, I do have quite a few books to talk about today, and I don't want this video to be way too long. Jumping in straight at the deep end, the first book I would like to read in February is the Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 in Mistborn Era 1. I did manage to read The Final Empire last month, which is book 1. It was a reread for me. I absolutely loved it. I flew through that book, to be honest with you guys, but seeing the size of this one is just so intimidating. I do have it on my Kindle, so I will probably pick it up that way just because I've really been enjoying reading on my Kindle recently, and I feel like by having it on my Kindle I'm not intimidated by the size. So hopefully that means I can fly through it. But as I mentioned, this is book 2 in the first trilogy in the Cosmere, so I can't tell you too much about this book in particular. But in the first book, The Final Empire, we follow our main character Kelsier, and he is basically working to overthrow the Final Empire because he is classed as a Scar, and the Scar are a group of people who have been oppressed for 1,000 years. They are treated worse than slaves, and so Kelsier is trying to start a Scar rebellion in order to kill the Lord Ruler and take control of the Final Empire. Along the way, we see him recruit a whole load of people, and each person he recruits has different abilities. Now, the magic system in this world is so fascinating because you can ingest metals, and depending on what that metal is, you then have the ability to use a certain power. Most people can only ingest and wield one type of metal. However, Kelsier is a Mistborn, which means he can use all 8, and whilst he's trying to recruit different members, he does stumble upon another Mistborn, which is extremely rare, and he decides to take them under his wing and essentially train them in this magic. I don't know if I've described that well. I feel like I really haven't, but it's such a complex book to try and describe to you guys in such few words. I honestly have no idea where the series is going to go from here now though, because I feel like that first book wraps up pretty nicely and it could technically be a standalone, but I just can't wait to dive into this one. So many of you have told me that the story just gets so much deeper in the second book, and of course the third one as well, and the Cosmere just expands so much, so I'm definitely hoping to smash this one out pretty soon. This is a priority read for me, so I will be focusing on this one and I will be reading this one in February, just because I know myself, if I don't, I'll put it off for months and then I'll be in the same situation next year where I'll have to reread the first book again and try and get back into this world. So this is definitely getting read. I'm very excited but very intimidated by it. So for the next book, I have been a little bit kinder to myself, I think, and I have chosen to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is of course the prequel to the Hunger Games books. When this first came out, I wasn't really bothered about reading it. I was kind of interested, but it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind. However, with the new film being released, Tom and I really want to go and see it, and I decided that I would like to read this one first because we were going to go and see it at the cinema, but it's now not in the cinema anymore, which does work out for me because it gives me more time to prioritize this one. And whilst it is different and whilst it's set before the Hunger Games and we see why the Hunger Games came to be, I know that I love Suzanne Collins' writing style. This is a world that is somewhat familiar to me, and honestly I just can't wait to dive into this one. I did rewatch all of the Hunger Games films recently in anticipation for this book and the film, so it's all very much clear in my mind, and yeah, I'm just desperate to read this one now. I can't wait to see what it is actually about, because all I know is that we focus on President Snow in here as he is growing up, of course, and as we, as I mentioned, see the Hunger Games come to be. I don't actually want to know too much more about it. I haven't even read the synopsis properly, and I don't think I want to. I think I just want to dive into this one without really knowing anything, which I'm definitely looking forward to. I know when this was announced, people weren't too keen on the fact that it was focusing on Snow. However, I think it's going to be really interesting. I love to see what makes people tick, and President Snow is such an interesting character. From the Hunger Games itself, I loathed him. I absolutely hated him with every fibre of my being, but he was just done so well, and that's why I felt that way. So I'd like to see what happened in his childhood to kind of turn him into the monster that we know from the Hunger Games. And I didn't actually own this book until recently, so I'm glad to have it now, and yeah, this is another one that I will hopefully be getting to in February. The next book I'm a little bit unsure of, just because it's the start of a new fantasy series, but that one is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. Now, I have owned these books for a while. This is the gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. I absolutely love it, but as I mentioned, they've been sat on my shelves for a while now, and I just haven't been wanting to pick them up. It's no fault of the book itself. I just think that because I own all the books and I can see them there, I'm a bit daunted by it, and I just wasn't sure whether I wanted to start a new fantasy series. However, Katie from Katie is Reading and Cass from Cassandra Lynn have chosen this series as their Women's and Ones book club picks, and I was meant to start this one in January in order to keep up with their read-along schedule. However, I wasn't able to do so, so I am putting it onto this TBR, knowing that at the end of this book there will be a live show discussion I can watch with two of my favourite booktubers, which is always lovely. So I feel like it's finally time to dive into this one. I've heard nothing but amazing things. I know it's a book that came out a while ago, so it might be on the older side of YA in terms of when it was released, but I just have high hopes for it. It's a Middle Eastern inspired fantasy world, and honestly that just has me sold. So it just says here, vow your blood and body to the Empire, keep your hearts for yourself. An orphan fighting for her family, a soldier searching for his freedom, a story burning to be told. Laia is a scholar living under the iron-fisted rule of the Martial Empire. When her brother is arrested in the dead of night for treason and her loved ones slain, Laia must go undercover as a slave at the Empire's greatest military academy in exchange for assistance from those who claim that they can save her brother from execution. The academy's finest soldier, Elias, is secretly its most unwilling, but before he can act on the desertion he plans in his heart, he's ordered to participate in a ruthless contest to choose the next Martial Emperor. When Laia and Elias's paths collide, they will find their destinies are inescapably intertwined, and their choices will rock the future of the very empire they fear. I am so here for this now, you guys. I didn't know that there was some sort of trials in this, which is definitely a buzzword for me. So I'm glad I decided to pick this one up and put it on my TBR. The writing as well is quite big, so it should be one that I would fly through. And from everything I've seen of this, I just think I'm gonna love it. The artwork is beautiful. The reviews that I've seen have been so positive, and yeah, I'm really excited to read this one and to be able to discuss it with everyone else who's reading it for Wyverns and Words. The next book I'm reading is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Of course, I'm reading this one in anticipation for House of Flame and Shadow. I actually have never read Sky and Breath before. This is my first time diving into it. I have actually started it. I started it right at the end of January, but the majority of it will be read this month because it is huge, you guys. I don't actually have the copy to hand. It's downstairs and I didn't plan it through before filming this video, but I left it there, and yeah, I'm too lazy to go and get it essentially. But this is the second book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, which I'm sure you all know what it's about, but essentially we follow Bryce and her friends. Bryce is essentially labelled a party girl. She is out drinking almost every night. She does some questionable things and she gets up to a lot of mischief with her best friend Danica and a pack of wolves called the Pack of Devils. However, unfortunately, one night things go wrong and her friends are killed. Skipping forward to 2 years later, we are once again following Bryce as she is still coming to terms with this big loss that she has had to face, and it gets even worse for her because the person who everyone thought committed the crime has managed to escape from jail, and so an archangel called Micah asks Bryce to become part of the case because he knows that she will do anything for vengeance, and she knew the people involved best, of course, and so he puts her on this case and he grants her a kind of bodyguard, I suppose, called Hunt Athalar, and we see them work together to figure out what was going on with Danica, the Pack of Devils, and a brand new drug called Synth. Of course they find out things that they shouldn't, of course it all escalates, and it's just so well done. It's a book that pulls on your heartstrings. There are so many amazing characters here that you will fall in love with. There are so many characters that you will grow to hate, and I just feel like the world is so interesting. I feel like it's a good place to start if you do want to get into your fantasy books because there isn't as much world building. But of course in the second book we are dealing with the fallout from that first book. We are seeing our characters in some different situations once again, and so far I'm only about 150 pages in, but I am really enjoying it. It's definitely slower paced. I feel like not much is happening at the minute, whereas with House of Earth and Blood you're kind of thrown in at the deep end straight away. I have actually been spoiled for the ending of this. I strayed away from spoilers for so long, but in the hype of the release for the next book people started posting stuff again and I saw a big spoiler, so I know where this is headed, but I'm not too mad about it. I feel like it's going to be worth it to read that final page. It's just going to take me a long while to get there because this book is massive and it definitely needs my full attention. And then the last book I'll be picking up in February is The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons, which is the second book in the A Chorus of Dragons series. I do have the first book to hand here, which is The Ruin of Kings. I read this one, I want to say last year, maybe it was even before that, and I thought it was about time that I dove into the second book because I do own the audiobook for it. I did listen to the first book as well and loved it. I had the best experience with it. So I have gone the same route with this one as well. However, I started listening to it on my commute to work the other day and I just got very confused. So I am currently watching Jade from JD Rereads recap video of this. It's almost 3 hours long, but essentially she read the whole thing and filmed her experience and essentially just retold the story, which I'm finding extremely helpful. I did remember most of it, but there were just a few things that I just couldn't remember happening. So instead of having to reread this beast of a book, Jade sorted me out and had already filmed a recap, which was extremely handy, so thank you, Jade. So hopefully when I start listening to this one again I will remember more of what is going on. It does start straight after the events of the ending of the first book. There isn't really a break in time or anything like that. You are just thrown back in, which I do kind of appreciate, and we are met with some characters that we have seen in the first book as well. So it is pretty familiar. There were just a few details that I was a bit unsure on, so I definitely feel more confident diving into this one now. This is why I shouldn't leave it so long between picking up books in a series. But for this one I am just going to read you the synopsis of the first book, just because I feel like it's such a hard one to explain. There's so much going on and I really don't want to spoil anything. So it just says here, when destiny calls, there's no fighting back. As a bard's apprentice, Kieran grew up with tales of legendary deeds. He also steals, desperate to buy a way out of Coor's slums. Then he raids the wrong house. He's marked by a demon, and his life will never be the same again. Kidin's plight brings him to the attention of royalty, who claim him as the lost son of their immoral prince. But far from living the dream, Kieran's at the mercy of his new family's ruthless ambitions. However, escaping his jeweled cage just makes matters worse. Kieran is horrified to learn he's at the centre of an ancient prophecy, and every side, from gods and demons to dragons and mages, want him as their pawn. Those old stories lied about many things too, especially the myth that the hero always wins. Then again, maybe Kieran isn't the hero, for he's not destined to save the Empire, he's destined to destroy it. Doesn't that just sound so good, you guys? This book is also told in dual timeline, which I personally really enjoy. I think it works really well for this type of novel, and I just got a lot more out of the story than I think I would had it just been told linearly. As I mentioned, I have already started this one. I'm not that far through. I may try and read the physical book as well, because we do have some different elements to it. I haven't read the synopsis actually, and I don't know if I want to. That may have been a good idea before starting the audiobook, but you guys know me, I like to live on the edge and just get surprised by my books. So yeah, I am very excited to finally be picking this one up and continuing on with the series. It is a 5-book series, I believe, so again I wanted to see where the story is going before I decide to buy the next few books, but I did enjoy the first one. I've enjoyed what I've listened to of this one so far as well, and this is another one that will definitely be getting read this month because because I believe it's the only audiobook that I have on my TBR. So there we have it. These are all of the books that I plan on reading in February, as well as the books that I've chosen to read for Ballad. So these aren't all of them, but I feel like this is a pretty good stack. There are some chunky books on there, as I've mentioned, but I can honestly say I'm excited for each and every single one, which is always good. I have high hopes for so many of these because of the reviews that I've seen from people that I trust, and I'm hoping that February is going to turn out to be a great reading month for me. Please do let me know your spoiler-free thoughts on any of the books that I've mentioned down below. I love chatting to you guys about the books I plan on reading, and your opinion definitely sways the reading order as well. If you don't have anything in particular that you would like to say, but you would like to let me know that you're still here, please go ahead and comment a snake emoji to represent the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I don't think I've had a snake emoji before, so I definitely think that that is fitting. I know I say it all the time, but seeing you guys comment the emoji of the video truly does mean the world to me. It blows me away that you guys watch my videos all the way through. So if you are still here but you don't know what to comment, please do go ahead and leave me a snake emoji. As well as that, please don't forget to click the like button if you like this video and the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. Of course, I have a Polathon TBR and a Polathon vlog coming your way soon, and as I've previously mentioned, I am off for a week over half term where I'm planning on filming an unhaul, a bookshelf reorganization video, and a bookshelf tour. So you definitely want to be subscribed so that you don't miss any of that content from me. But that is it for me today, guys. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!